Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Commissioners regular meeting November 15, 2022. At this time, I'll ask the City Clerk, Beth Davis, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Here.
Commissioner Mark Castlin.
Here.
Mayor Tom Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Maglinger.
Here.
Commissioner Bob Glenn.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, if you're able to stand, we'll have the invocation and the pledge. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, as we gather tonight, we thank you for all our blessings. We pray for your guidance to always see the best in people, to have a mind to forgive the bad, and a heart that shows kindness to all. We pray especially for all those that are and have worn the uniform to protect us and keep us free as we celebrate Veterans Day all month long. Please keep safe all those that put their life on the line to keep us safe. We're so thankful we have a safe, faith-based community, and we are committed to keeping that way. And may the blessings of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be amongst us and remain with us always, as we say together, Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, I'm supposed to speak. Can you hear me? Yeah. So tonight we're going to unveil the Christmas card. It's kind of a we've been doing it a long time. Dave Atkinson started this when he was mayor, and we're happy to continue it. It's the 34th official City of Owensboro Christmas card, designed by Aaron Kaiser, who will not speak tonight because he's afraid, entitled Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and will soon be on sale. The cards can be purchased $2 each and available on Tuesday, November 22nd at City Hall, located 101 East 4th Street. City Hall is open 8 to 5. So, are you going to come and help me unveil it, Aaron, or not? Okay, Kevin, drum roll. 1, 2, 3. We had such a great response from our Christmas card last year that was Santa Claus, as you will know. So Aaron modified this and see, we got the little, what do they call it thing in music? The little, huh? Treble clef. It's a backwards treble because it's Kaiser. So we're really excited about it, and it's one of the fun things that we get to do here that doesn't really make anything bad. So okay. Next item on the agenda. We have a quitter amongst us. Katie Royalty. And I've never come in this place that I've seen her that she wasn't smiling. She's got a beautiful smile. So I'll read a little bit of this about Miss Katie. Katie has been with the City of Owensboro for 27 years and has filled many roles over the years. Katie is currently the Assistant Occupational Tax Administrator in the Finance Department. She is directly responsible for duties including audits for occupational license fee and net profit taxes. Katie also assists the occupational revenue clerks when needed by processing mail, helping with customers, and answering questions in regards to occupational license fee ordinance. Katie is always willing to help wherever she is needed. She seems to be a walking encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to occupational license fee, and she loves to share her knowledge with her co-workers and the citizens of Owensboro. Katie has consistently increased revenue collections for the city of Owensboro with her precise audits. Katie's customer service skills are exemplary. She is so friendly, and she always arrives to work with a smile on her face and a happy greeting to her co-workers. Although Katie is responsible for her own daily tasks, she can often be found assisting other co-workers with their tasks. Her aptitudes don't end with her office work. She also extends a warm welcome to chipper disposition of, I'm going to start all over this, glasses. She also extends a warm, chipper disposition to the citizens of Owensboro. She can resolve issues and handle her difficult situations with remarkable patience and admirable tact. Katie loves people, works hard, and always tries to lift the spirits of those around her. When not at work, Katie loves spending time with her family, especially her grandsons. Katie will be missed greatly by her co-workers. Katie, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, okay?
Oh, well, that's okay.
That's your mic is already on. You sure? You got that chipper disposition, man. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Mayor, Commissioners, as you know, over the last couple of years, over the course of this soon-to-be expiring term on your current commission, we have discussed and considered a number of projects that have either been approved or have the consensus of the commission to move forward. And so as we draw this term to a close, it's appropriate for the commission that has considered and approved the projects to also provide funding for these projects. And so at our two meetings in December, we'll consider first reading on December 6th and then second reading and a vote on December 20th of a bond issued to provide the funding for the various projects under discussion and consideration. And then at those same two meetings, we'll have what I consider an accompanying budget amendment to account for and approve the receipt and the disbursement of those funds for the various projects as we have discussed. And so I just wanted to highlight that for your consideration and review, and also to present this publicly so it's publicly vetted before we have first reading at our December 6th meeting. So this slide depicts the various projects that would be included and the amounts appropriated for each project. We've discussed the indoor sports facility at length repeatedly. The most recent cost estimate, I think, from Leland was $18.9 million, so we rounded that off to a $19 million cost. The transient dock, we've received an engineer's estimate that has been presented to the commission at 9.5 million. Fire Station 3 replacement, you know about. I think in September we actually purchased one of the properties next to the Station 3 there on Cravens, on Cravens Avenue. And so that has been in the works for some time. And so that will be a project that we'll start expending funds probably in the next 2 to 3 months as we onboard and engage an architect, hence its inclusion in the bond. Fire Training Center also you're well familiar with. Leland provided an update about that a month or two ago. And so that project is ready to go and actually may even bid as soon as in the next 2 to 3 weeks potentially. So it is at a point to proceed. The Fisher Park light poles are a project that has come up much more recently. We haven't necessarily talked about that publicly, but we've realized that there is some problems with the poles there that Stephen or someone could explain better than I could. But essentially the poles are at the end of their lifespan and they are rotten. And so some of them are no longer able to support the crossbars that hold the lights that are used to light the fields at Fisher Park. And so that's a problem from a tournament perspective. And so we've realized that if we proceed and do this project right now, we can get the lights replaced and installed and everything ready to have no impact on our tournament season next year. So it's a timely project, hence its inclusion on the list. And then finally, we have a various projects line. And that, again, as you know, over the next couple of years, we'll be doing more fire station work in particular with Station 1 and Station 4, I believe, are slated for either repairs or renovations. And so we wanted some funds to have available to have for architects. And if, again, on some of those on Station 1 we've talked about, we'll probably acquire a parcel or two to the rear of the station to expand the property as well. So wanted to have some funds available to help as we begin pursuing those projects over a couple of years. So obviously that's not enough to actually fund the construction of Station 1 and Station 4, but it gets us started, and then I anticipate the next commission toward the latter part of their term will have to come back and do a subsequent bond issue to provide the actual capital for those two projects. But wanted to have some seed money, if you will, to get us started over the next year or so for those projects. So then the total, as you see at the bottom, is a $44.6 million bond issue. So the question inevitably comes then with the bond of that amount is the debt service, or how will we pay those debt payments that we will undertake. And so this slide depicts the debt service for a 20-year bond. So these are essentially stable payments over a 20-year period. You can see they're broken out by project and the amount attributable to that project. And then on the right-hand column, you see the funding source. So for the indoor sports facility, obviously is a $1,415,000 annual debt service cost. And we'll pay that from 3 different sources. The TRT is the transient room tax that you approved, I believe, in August. So we'll start receiving those collections, or we have started receiving those collections. In the short term, that's not enough to pay the entire cost. That revenue source will grow over time as hotel rental rates and room rates increase over the years, but it will provide a sizable portion of that debt service for the indoor sports facility. That will also be subsidized by what we call the YCV, or Your Community Vision Fund. We talk about that every year in the budget, and that's funded by 0.33 or 33 basis points of our occupational tax that by ordinance go to a separate fund and are used for capital projects such as these. And then finally, you see GF, which represents the general fund. If you remember, a portion of the transient room tax actually has to go to fund the operations of the convention center. So a portion of the TRT will go to the convention center and free up what general funds that we had been allocating or appropriating toward the deficit at the convention center. And so it frees up those general fund dollars. So the transient room tax funds really allow us to do this, but technically there will be some general fund dollars going into the project just because we'll use the restricted funds for their restricted purpose and then free up the general funds that are unrestricted to put toward the indoor sports facility. On the transient dock is a similar approach, that it will be an eligible expense for the transient room tax as it grows in the future. And in the meantime, we'll subsidize that from the YCV fund, and then a portion of that will be funded from the general fund as well. As you're all aware, in the current year, we paid off a bond that was issued, or 2 bonds that were issued about 20 years ago that totaled about $575,000. And those, over the years, have paid for Morris Park and then for improvements, including the new pro shop at Hillcrest. And so we thought it was appropriate and reasonable because that $575,000 had been used for recreation projects for the past 20 years. We would just continue to deploy that same amount, the 575, toward the dock, and then the other remaining funds there for the 710,000 necessary would come from the YCV and then eventually the transient room tax as that source grows in the future. Then the other three projects are all your Community Vision Fund projects, which again, the .33 that we have dedicated toward capital projects. So these are largely anticipated and known projects, and so it has no impact on the general fund because we have a dedicated source that we'll use. And this is very similar to past practice in use of YCV funds. For example, all of the drainage work that the city has done over the last 20 or 25 years in the vicinity of Veach Road and Sherm Road and all those projects, we issued debt, and that debt is paid for by YCV funds because, again, that was the purpose that was created to fund these kind of capital expenditures as a dedicated funding source. So although the total debt service for the project is about $3.3 million, it has really a minimal impact on the general fund. Only really those general funds that have been deployed for debt service over the last 20 or so years from expiring debt. So, Angela, anything that I left out or anything you need to clarify?
No, I think you covered it. You got it.
Okay. So, as I referenced, then we'll also have first reading of the bond ordinance and a budget amendment on December 6th. At that meeting, and also today, Stan Kramer is our financial advisor. He's here if you have any technical questions. He advises us on bonds and things of that nature. That is a very specialized market, and so he has represented the city well for many years. And so he's here should you have any questions about that, and I believe he'll be here on December 6th for any questions about the ordinance itself as well. But certainly if you have any questions about the projects, Leland can handle that. Angela or Stan or myself about any other elements, Mayor. So turn it back to you.
Okay, my thing, the jig's not working, so I think you can hear me.
Use your handheld.
Feel like I'm at a ping pong game or something. I have a question, Leland, Mr. Hancock. One thing about the transient boat dock, and it may be a question for you all as well. $710,000, and that's is that a monthly payment? Is that right? Annual? Okay,
yes.
So, and it's a 20-year deal? So, will the transient boat dock last 20 years?
Oh, absolutely, Mayor.
Okay,
You're probably looking at a 50 to 80 year
All right.
lifespan, if not longer on that.
I just hear about all that stuff floating up and down through there. I didn't know that would last 50 or 80 years, but, oh, we're in good shape then. You can sit down.
Okay.
That's the only thing I was, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Castle?
You've got the transient room tax covering the indoor sports facility along with the YCV and the general fund. But it's my understanding that with the TRT and the YCV, that's not even going to be enough to cover the sports facility starting out. Am I right?
Starting out, Commissioner, that is correct. So I think we anticipate generating approximately $1 million in year one, hopefully a little bit more from the transient room tax. But that's year one, and this is a 20-year term bond or 20-year duration bond. So over that 20-year period, the transient room tax will grow. It is a percentage of room rates. And so as you can imagine, rates now room rates are higher now than they were 20 years ago, and then presumably they'll be higher 20 years from now. So that revenue source will grow in the future. And so as that transient room tax grows in the future, then the reliance on the other tax sources will diminish.
So basically, the transient boat dock is really going to be paid by the general fund for several years before there's even any transient room tax available to pay over on the transient boat dock. It'll all go to the indoor sports facility. Is that right?
If I may, when I prepared the projections for the revenue stream from the transient room tax, I will admit it was a conservative estimate, and the most current data I had was through the COVID timeframe. And so I took the county's gross base and I extrapolated that with a little bit of growth to accommodate post-COVID. What the county's revenues did not capture, nor do we have any way to project that, would be what we are planning to get from the Airbnb. So projections, revenues are hopefully going to come in better than originally projected, okay? No one knows, even the county, because they've not collected from the Airbnb at this point. That's effective January 1 of 2023. So from that standpoint, our revenue stream should be higher. And so it's hopeful that it won't be in the too far future that the transient room tax will pay for the indoor sports facility. Until such time, we, in our long-range plan, have accommodated that supplement in the YCV fund. And what Nate spoke to earlier, 1/4 of the transient room tax will go to the general fund, which frees up what goes to the convention center. So that's less money that the general fund has to supplant the convention center for its operations. So that's going to help the general fund from that standpoint, from the transient room tax. I hope this is all making sense. I know it's kind of
That's a
technical
money
and
shuffle.
kind of in the weeds, but so the transient room tax will free up some general fund dollars. So there's a lot of unknowns at this point, and you know, while we have 19 million tentatively budgeted, we're hopeful that it comes in less than that. You know, and so there's things out there that are hard to predict, black and white. And so I don't know if that helps answer your question. I hope it does. The transient boat dock, like Nate had mentioned earlier, the general fund already was paying $575,000 per year in debt service. So that debt service stream will just continue. Rather than, you see what I'm saying, there won't be an additional amount from the general fund. That debt service will just continue by virtue of issuing bonds because the other bonds had matured. So there'll be a little bit of variance there, $575,000 to the $710,000. So one could look at it that the general fund will be supplanted a bit from the transient room tax, or maybe the general fund or YCV will have to pick up some of that slack. So it's kind of all, that's why we have all three funds listed for both projects.
But the bottom line, though, is the majority of the transient boat dock, probably 75–80% of it will come out of the general fund. And, you know, it's the way it's looking.
That's correct.
And, you know, my concern was the seniors were told that this money was not going to be available for the senior center because it was coming from the TRT, and in reality, a big chunk of it is not coming from the transient room tax. And I told the voters that I would be transparent, and that's what I'm doing right now. I want to point out that a majority of that money for the transient boat dock is going to come from the general fund and won't be from the TRT and the YCV. That's all. Thank you.
Is that a question or?
It was just a statement that it was a question to make sure that what I wanted to point out was correct, and that's that the majority of it would not be the money for the transient boat dock would not be coming from the TRT and the YCV. The majority of it will be coming from the general fund, and that's what Ms. Waniger.
Is that is correct, Ms.?
That for the beginning time frame, that is an accurate statement. Okay. But like I had said, that hopefully this transient room tax, by virtue of adding the Airbnb revenue stream, and hopefully the third hotel downtown, should it, you know, when it gets built, the additional influx of hotels being reserved because of the indoor sports facility, we are hopeful and looking forward to that revenue stream being higher than what was originally projected.
Right.
So at the beginning of all of the debt service, yes, the bulk of that will be general fund. But we're hopeful that at some point in time, the transient room tax will be sufficient to cover.
Right, and at some point over the 20-year term, transient room tax dollars will fund the transient dock, so as we anticipate. So that's why we show all three on here, because at some point it will be actually all three.
Okay.
Question or comment?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go for it.
So, do both of them qualify for TRT?
Yes, they're both for tourism,
They're
so
both
yes.
eligible expenses.
Right. So if you were to strike the first one and just have the second one, you could pay the second one with total TRT, correct?
That's correct.
So it doesn't matter which one and which way, correct?
That's why they're listed like
Right,
they are on
right.
the screen.
I just wanted to point that out. So you could say that the top one's going to draw from the general fund, or the second one's going to draw from the general fund. So it doesn't matter either way. They could both draw from or equally from the general fund.
They could both draw from the general fund.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why we have them listed like they are. And again, and I know I have said this, and Nate has said it, the transient room tax will free up general fund monies by virtue of 25% of what we collect on the transient room tax will go to the convention center, which will then it'll free up, and there'll be less general fund money supporting the convention center.
Correct, and that number would be 1%, correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
1% of the hotel room rate.
Exactly. 1% goes to the convention center, which frees up money to pay these things.
To help pay for those
To help
things.
pay for these things, correct. Thank you.
Commissioner Glenn.
Okay, so just to underscore for the people at home, we could have just as easily said we're gonna pay 50% of both of these with general fund revenue and 50% with TRT funds had we chosen to do so, right? Am I understanding this correctly?
Again, I would say, Mayor, if I could, they're both eligible projects.
Right.
And so, which is why we showed all the funding sources, because
Right,
it really
and that's
almost becomes
fine.
immaterial. They go into one pot, and it just, from an appropriation standpoint, it doesn't really matter. It's the sort
But
of
you
the
could, in
fungibility
theory,
of money.
do 50% for both.
But at some point over the 20-year term, all three of these sources will fund both of those projects. So we wanted to show it as accurately as possible. So the funding sources in year one will look different than they will in year 20. So at some point, all of these will fund the projects. And so we just wanted to be as accurate and transparent by showing all of them.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that.
All
I
of them
just
will at some
saying-
point contribute. And as Angela said, both projects would be an eligible expense for the transient room tax
Okay.
restrictions.
Mr. Commissioner.
And I just want to follow up with Angela on a question. So in January of 2023, we'll begin collecting what we hope will be revenue from the Airbnb community.
That's correct.
Not to be an idiot, but does that include Verbo as well?
Yes.
Any of
yes,
those types?
Yes, Commissioner. At this point, I'm not aware of any VRBOs in the community, but we have reached out to the VRBO folks, and we're waiting for them to reach back out to us. So I have not made contact with the person that I need to speak with there, but at this point, I'm not aware of any VRBOs in the area. There are several Airbnbs. In fact, I have a Zoom call with them this week to go ahead and solidify that process and to execute a contract with them.
We use Airbnbs a lot, and I've had a fair amount of consumer experience with them. My question is, how did you track them? Is there a centralized, you contact Airbnb and say, we need all your providers in the area? Is that how it works?
Just a minute, we got another malfunction, John.
Okay, sorry.
That is something that the Airbnb, they consider that proprietary information, because if they were to reveal who they're collecting from, then the renter might go directly to that homeowner rather than through Airbnb. So Airbnb loses their revenue stream. So that's proprietary confidential information. So when we contract with them, we'll have to rely on them to give us a full inclusive list of all the Airbnbs that they have collected for, and then will remit to us.
So will Airbnb disperse the money collectively, or will it be the individual providers?
When Airbnb will collect from all the homeowners.
Okay.
Right. So if you were to rent an Airbnb,
Right.
you online or whatever, you will pay the full amount owed to Airbnb. They collect for the state, they collect for the county, and they'll collect for the city, and then they will remit accordingly to the state, to the county, and to the city said funds for whatever rates that those jurisdictions have set to be collected.
Okay. Well, I think that's good and equitable, and more importantly, their rates sometimes are higher than hotels when you tack in all the fees. So it'll be interesting to see the experience you have as an accountant with them. So thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
So if memory serves me correct, we didn't have to subsidize the convention center this year, correct?
Not from a operations
Operational
standpoint.
standpoint?
Correct.
So there's another part of it that we have to subsidize?
Well, the capital costs,
Capital costs.
debt service, and then also the
Okay.
capital costs on replacement plan for money we save for escalator replacement and those types of capital
Because that's
items.
confusing to the
It is.
other folks, just like me. Because, we had that big discussion, we were so excited about the convention center carrying its own weight, but in essence, it really didn't carry all its own weight, did it? Okay. That's clear as mud. Here we go. What's next? City Manager, you got anything else?
Not on that item, Mayor.
Ms. Hamrick? You good?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Is your mic working?
It is now.
All right.
Thanks to Leland.
Now, Commissioner Castleton's not working. We're going to take a time out right here to make sure everybody's mic's working. Pfeiffer, why don't you give us yours? You never use it anyway.
It's fine. Here you go. We're passing it down. Teamwork, that's what counts.
He's got it.
You got it? No, we don't need it? Okay. All right, okay.
Then you got your tennis shoes on next week, baby. Okay. I guess over and under's killed, isn't it? All right, item 5A, I'd ask that you consider the approval of minutes from dated October 18, 2022, November 1, and November 8, 2022. I'll make some motion to approve these minutes. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 5B, consider these board appointments, please. Owensboro Human Relations Commission reappoint Joseph Aquisto to a 3-year term effective December 4, 2022. The Police and Firefighters Retirement Fund Board is closed. Reappoint Chief Art Elam to a 1-year term effective January 1, 2023, and ratify the election of Charles Hayden to a 1-year term effective January 1, 2023. In the Senior Community Center of Owensboro and Davis County, we report Melinda Cornell and former Finance Director J.T. Fulkerson to a 3-year term effective January 1st, 2023. I'll make a motion to approve these appointments. Could I have a second, please? Second. Any further discussion on these appointments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, ordinance, second reading, there are none. Ordinance, item 7, ordinance, first reading, no vote. Ms. Davis.
Ordinance 27-2022, an ordinance revising the City of Owensboro Employee Handbook, Chapter 1000, Subchapter 1004, pay chart entitled Administrative Services, thereby adding the position of Collection Specialist and removing the position of Assistant Occupational Tax Administrator. Introduced and read on first reading this 15th day of November, 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. This is first reading of an ordinance amending our pay charts to change the name of one position of the city fleet. The position is formerly titled Assistant Occupational Tax Administrator and is changed to Collection Specialist. The position will become non-exempt instead of the exempt status it currently has. The wage or salary remains the same, so there is no financial implication from the name change. It is a change in name only. Mayor, actually, you recognized Katie Royalty. This was the position that she retired from, and while that was vacant, we used that as an opportunity to evaluate and see if it needed to be changed or updated. So it's just standard review, resulting in a name change based on the vacancy.
May I ask you a question? Could you explain the difference between non-exempt and exempt, please?
Yeah, and I would ask perhaps Josh to comment, but essentially I think it's based on the job requirements and the
Mr.
nature of the
Bachmeier, please.
position. And based on federal legislation, we determine whether it's exempt or non-exempt. Essentially, non-exempt is eligible for overtime, and exempt employees are not eligible for overtime.
That's what I thought.
Very simply, non-exempt is an hourly employee versus exempt, where it'd be a salary employee. And there's a duties test that you can kind of do to assign employees for each of those.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 8, municipal orders. Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 44-2022, a municipal order declaring the property located at 730 Walnut Street as surplus property and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a real estate purchase agreement and deed conveying the property to Habitat for Humanity of Owensboro, Davis County, Inc. Read for approval on one reading this 15th day of November, 2022.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City manager, would you enlighten us, please?
Happy to. This municipal order declares surplus and authorizes the transfer of 730 Walnut Street to Habitat for Humanity. You can see on the map there, the parcel in red is the property in question at 730 Walnut. And for reference, you can see Monita Sleep Park there at 7th and Walnut. So it's basically in the block south of Monita Sleep Junior Park. We actually acquired this property at a master commissioner sale for the total of $25. And so when we were able to get
right up your alley.
right, we were able to get one that cheap. We thought it was, again, and the next item is very similar, but we thought it was a good investment of our funds, and then we can transfer it to Habitat, and they'll do a good Habitat project and get a owner-occupied home on the property.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 8B, Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 45-2022, a municipal order declaring the property located at 1821 West 7th Street as surplus property and authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a real estate purchase agreement and deed conveying the property to Habitat for Humanity of Owensboro, Davis County, Inc. Read for approval on one reading this 15th day of November, 2022.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please? Second. City manager.
Like the last item, this order declares surplus and transfers a vacant residential property to Habitat for Humanity. The city acquired this property at 1821 West 7th Street at a master commissioner sale for $100. We're pleased to continue our long-term partnership with Habitat and see another vacant property redeveloped into an owner-occupied residence. And again, like the last item, you can see it there in red on West 7th, and you can see Faust Elementary on your on the top right of the property to give you some point of reference.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, city manager items.
Mayor, if you would acknowledge Angela Waninger to present the October financial report.
I'm always happy to recognize Ms. Waniger.
Hi, Mayor. I'm waiting for the clicker.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
We're on top of it here. We got things going left and right. Batteries coming in and out. I mean, it's unbelievable.
All right. My PowerPoint presentation is on the general fund activity for the month of and 4 months ended October. If you like, you can refer to page 3 of your financial packet for more detail. In the month of October 2022, actual revenues of $8,200,960 were less than budgeted revenues of $9,659,954, resulting in a variance of $1,458,994. This variance is primarily due to lower property tax, occupational withholding, and insurance premium license fee. Now for the year-to-date revenues, is looking much better. Total actual revenues of $23,487,402 were higher than budgeted revenues of $22,324,123 for a variance of $1,163,279. This variance is primarily due to timing of higher property tax revenues, higher occupational withholding, and net profits, and it's partially offset by timing and lower insurance premium license fee. Our general fund expenditures for the month of October Actual expenditures were $5,089,498, which were less than budgeted expenditures of $5,395,883 for a variance of $306,385. This is primarily due to timing in maintenance, transfers, and capital outlay. For the 4 months ended October, actual expenditures of $21,922,562 were less than budgeted of $24,219,699 for a variance of $2,297,137. This is primarily due to timing in maintenance, outside services, transfers, and capital, and savings in personnel. And as we've talked before about the city's revenues, monthly revenues and expenses being cyclical, some months have expenses higher, some months have revenues higher. And as you can see on our chart, just how cyclical they can be. This is the nature of our finances, and we budget accordingly. Expenses typically outpace revenues in the warmer months. Likewise, we have months where revenues outpace expenditures, such as in the months of October and November, due to collection of property taxes. So as you can see on this chart, our revenues outpaced our expenses. But like I said, we budget that so that there's no surprises in our variances month to month. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I'll make a motion to file the report for audit. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9B, please. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight for your consideration, we have the following personnel appointments. Aaron Contrado, Lucas Hardy, and Hunter Hinton, probationary, full-time, non-civil service promotional appointments to sergeant with the police department effective November 20th. And Sarah Henry, regular, full-time, non-civil service appointment to refuse truck driver with sanitation effective November 21st.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve these probationary status. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? I had a lunch with the chief today, and he spent a lot of time trying to get all this stuff ready for us tonight, and we appreciate his effort. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. City Manager, comments?
Just one, Mayor. Today, we received notification that we were awarded the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our 22-23 fiscal year budget. While we have received this award for many years, this year we received our highest ever evaluation or score. So thank you to Angela and the team at the Finance Department and all those who are involved in the budget.
Ms. Hamrick, would you like to make a comment, please?
Just thank you to everyone involved in the budget for the Commission's leadership and guidance in developing the budget, and to our department directors who get their information in and help with that, and to the finance staff for pulling it together. So I'm just a lot of kudos out to it. It takes a village, so thanks to everyone.
Excellent comments. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Communication from elected officials. Commissioner Sanford.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Just real quick, so we just came off an election, and I would like to congratulate all my colleagues on winning, and my good friend Pam Smith-Wright, who will be here, and I can't be more happy for her. Number two, I just want to thank everybody, especially the staff, and you guys are the best, probably the best in the state, and it makes our jobs much easier. And all the things that we've accomplished over many years is due to a lot of it to you guys. We just sit here and and listen to you guys and try to make good decisions. And also the past commissioners, the past mayors, the current mayor, all of you guys have been great to work with, and I can only see great things for the future of Owensboro. And I think these guys here are going to get this thing going forward and keep it moving, and everything's going to work out great. And I'm happy to go out back into the private sector and do my thing. And that's all.
Jeff, that's very gracious of you, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate serving with you these last few years, and I appreciate your contribution to our community. Commissioner Caslin.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Jeff, we're going to miss you. Appreciate working with you all these years, and or both of these years, I should say, but watching you throughout the years working, it's been a real treat. I want to thank the voters out there for voting for me, and look forward to working with Ms. Pam Smith-Wright and the other commissioners coming up. I also want to thank Owensboro Health for putting on a wellness fair at Dugan Best Rec Center. I went there today. They ended up having 9 or 10 people, but you know, any efforts to help keep our community well is always appreciated. And just kind of wanted to remind people that the deer season is open and the mating season is open for the deer, so be careful out there on the roads, because those suckers dart out in front of you
If
any
you wouldn't
minute.
shoot at them, they wouldn't be running out on the street.
Well, I'm not hunting at night, Mayor,
okay.
but, you know. Thank you, that's it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. It's been really a pleasure working with Commissioner Sanford, but we've got some more time left. So it's a great comment you made, and it's been a real, it's really been a good experience, and we're going to miss you. I want to remind people what Friday night is lighting the Christmas tree, and let's kick off the light show. Yeah, okay. So if you haven't seen the light show, I think there's more lights this year, and it's great. And then, of course, the Christmas parade is Saturday. So anyway, hope everyone can come. Thank you.
Mr. Glenn.
Yeah, I want to also echo everyone else's comments. It's been a joy and a delight to work with each and every one of you. Jeff, you're such a loving individual for our community, and so active, and we're going to miss you. It's that simple. And we will welcome Pam back to the commission. She's a great colleague and a great citizen as well, so I'm excited for that. Want to thank those who organized the Veterans Parade. It was a great event. And also want to thank those that serve our country and protect our freedom across the globe.
Thank you. I do want to ask as many people to come out to the Christmas parade as possible. There's a lot of work and effort goes into that with public safety and with our police and fire and everybody else involved in that, and a big effort, so the more we can have, the better it will be. I want to thank the staff for missing supper tonight and joining us, and a couple of our boys in blue back there. We wouldn't know what to do without them, so thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is open public forum. Members of the audience are invited to address the City Commission on any matter of public concern that was not on tonight's agenda. Comments are limited to issues within the scope and responsibility of this commission. Commission meetings are held to conduct city business for the benefit of Owensboro citizens and taxpayers. At this time, anyone who wishes to address the City Commission, please make their way to the podium and be recognized. Speakers must state their name and address for the record and limit their comments to 3 minutes or less.
DeMarcus Curry, resident here in Owensboro, Kentucky. Just have a comment in regards to the project financing that was mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if I understand it myself totally. I just hope that we do not forget to include the Cravens Pool project somewhere in the community. The summer is coming up, and I would hope that we can keep something going active for the youth in the community, especially in that area.
Yeah, I'm happy to comment on that. So the Cravens Pool is a completely separate funding source with ARPA funds, and so those are there and committed. We weren't able to get the project done just because we got a lack of bidders, unfortunately, or who could construct the pool at this time. But it is in development for next year, and it is definitely a project we are proceeding with.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Anybody else? Barbara? No, please no. Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I have a second, please? Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.